Hi, and welcome to Stories from My Drinking Days. My name's Harry Fell, and I'm the owner of Nolo Cocktails and Bars. Today, we are joined by Olubunmi Aboaba, and I hope I said that right.
You did. You
Excellent.
did.
Fantastic. Yeah, you work now in recovery enhancement, which we'll come on to later. But
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, do you remember having your first alcoholic drink?
I do. And it was at the age of 12.
Yep.
And my family aren't big drinkers at all. It was always, Christmases, Easters, whatever. And it was Christmas. And I was treated as a treat to a little bit of Cinzano Bianco. I think you're too old to remember. You're too young to remember that. But yeah, Cinzano Bianco, and it was almost as though that first sip, it was like the sun came out. I felt amazing, and I just thought, I need this. This is making me feel so confident. I feel great, and that was it. That was the start of my relationship, my love affair with alcohol. It changed the way I felt about myself straight away.
Yeah, that's amazing that it just had that immediate effect. So,
Immediate.
so you said obviously your family didn't drink much, but did that first taste of alcohol then lead you to drink quite a lot through your teenage years?
It was quite interesting. It was always in the back of my mind. It was always there. It was my friend. I've come from a very strict Nigerian background where education is everything. When you had 90%, what happened to the other 10%? That's what my kind of education journey was like. So I kind of knew that I couldn't kind of really kind of partake too much of alcohol. So, I worked very, very hard. But then I knew at the end I could have a little kind of snifter. And the way I kind of treated alcohol was very secretive, very furtive. Um, when I had a little Saturday job, the first thing I would buy was a little bottle of Bacardi, and that would like last quite a while. So it wasn't the amount I drank; it was how I drank it, how it made me feel. It was always there. It always changed the way I felt. So it was there, and I knew once I got through my exams, that would be, I'd kind of have a binge. But again, it was very secretive. I'd come home absolutely sobered up and come home. And that kind of carried on. It was like a love affair. It was very like an affair, really, a liaison through the years. And I could handle it. I could handle it. But then I think things started to change when I went to university. And I always had this feeling that I was never good enough. Um, my self worth wasn't great. Very confident on the outside, but absolutely, scared as hell on the inside. The two never kind of married up, and alcohol married it up. So for me, I would turn to alcohol more regularly during university. I was drinking more, and obviously, at university, you drink more anyway. So for me, that was my kind of, turning point. And it kind of solved everything, confidence, your first boyfriend, you're a bit scared, you have Dutch courage. Just, I found I was turning to alcohol for anything that was social. And that kind of carried on. I kind of wanted to fit into the university kind of vibe as well. I wanted to fit in because I found it very hard to fit in. I was very much, I felt like a square peg in a round hole when I was younger. My parents moved from a high kind of ethnic area when I was 9 to really an all white middle class area so that I could get a better education. And that was when I kind of felt very, very different, very alone. That's when I was taunted, teased, and that's when that at the age of 12, that's when alcohol was very much, helped me kind of, you know, really cope with that. So there's always that underlying feeling of not feeling like I fitted in anywhere.
Yeah.
And, going to university, I was again the only black person in the class. And very much, yeah, very much that just helped me. I'm not saying it was like a sob story or anything. I still had a great time and everything, but it was always there. And going on into my profession
So
again, I think I was
yeah.
one of the first black sort of dental dentists at the time, and very, very, very different. Got jobs easy and everything else, but alcohol was just there for me all the time. I was always very scared, so I could never shake that feeling of. It's like a feeling of a high sense of alert, like a feeling of, yeah, just hyper vigilant, always on the lookout. Something's going to get me. And
Yeah.
kind of that was always there, and I never knew why, but alcohol kind of just helped get rid of that. So that was my journey through, and then it just took off. The wheels came off. I'd got to that tipping point where it was every day. Then it was I could still manage, very high functioning. Then it started to become the morning. Um, then it just got out of control, and then I
Yeah.
ended
So
up. I think it was, and then it was a car crash really for the next sort of 7 to 10 years. Um, 7 rehabs in 7 years. It's pretty. It was pretty horrible, and I was on the way to just dying.
yeah. So at what age were you then when you first went into rehab?
I was 35,
Okay. So
35,
you'd been in
36.
work. Were you still working as a dentist at that point?
Yes, I was, but I was taking a lot of time off because I just wasn't functioning. So
Yeah.
I was taking lots and lots of time off work and making every excuse under the sun. Just it was just horrendous. And then, yeah, the seventh rehab. When I came out, I was desperate. I tried everything. Well, I thought I'd tried everything, and I tried to help myself, fix myself. Very much somebody who didn't want to be vulnerable in front of others. So I never really trusted anybody. I came from a background where, you're black, you work hard, you trust no one, that kind of feeling. So for me, I could never really open up to people. I'd try and fix myself. And obviously it wasn't working. And that was really the biggest stumbling block for me for getting well is being vulnerable to the right people and being able to get that support. So I was this strong black woman who didn't need support and I'd come out, but by the time I got to my seventh rehab, and you kind of think, well, why didn't people might say, why didn't you get it the first time? That's alcohol. It's cunning and baffling and powerful. And your mental obsession goes haywire, and then before you know it, you're drinking again. But the last time, it was basically I was scared. I was up before my professional bodies because I'd been a drink drive, so they'd actually reported that to the profession. Which was a good thing, really, to be honest. And divorce papers were served in rehab. It was fight for the custody of the children. It was everything was kicking off on my last exit from the rehab,
Yeah.
and I knew I had to do something different because I was just facing all the consequences. I got a lot of support through AA, but a friend of mine, she sort of suggested to me to see this lady who was a shaman. Now, I kind of never heard of a shaman. I'm from a medical background, scientific background. So for me, that's like, what the hell she can able to help me do. So I remember I thought, do you know what? Let me just keep an open mind. Let me just go and see this woman who she's a very good friend of mine today, and just do what she needs to do. And I remember just closing my eyes and she was doing whatever. I can't remember what she was doing. I remember things being plonked on me, and it was the strangest thing. But after I left that session, I just knew everything was going to be okay. No matter what the contes were, whatever what was flying at me, I just knew there was just like this real knowing. I'd never had that before that I was going to be okay, no matter what. I'm going to be all right. And I kept thinking, this maybe it's just in my head, don't know what's going on, but this carried on. So I went to go and see her again for a little bit because she suggested I go back. So I did. And I still felt the same. I thought, what is this? And looking at what she did, it was the crystals that attracted me. And this is my journey of really getting hungry for knowing what this is all about. As a scientist, I thought, how can these beautiful gems work? How can they help me feel better? And I remember looking into it myself and looking at some of the kind of the kind of the science behind frequency, energy, color. These are stable structures that emit stable energies, which can impact our aura, which can be unstable because of emotion and physical and mental issues. And for me, that was it. I was down there wanting to learn all about energy, Reiki, crystals, spiritual response, the whole works. And the 16 years later, all these things have kept me well. And I do believe that the underlying is I call an energetic disruption. That we have an energy disruption, which once it becomes balanced again, coherent again, we resonate with the world again. We resonate, reconnect with ourselves. So the underlying disruption, I think, for me, was the very, very basis of what was going wrong. And once I recognised that and started to get that help, be able to help myself, and things started to flow better. Things got easier. Even though I was going through all this chaos, I felt good. I felt balanced. I felt harmonious. I could deal with things better. I was getting other forms of support, but the underlying thing was energy work and energy alignment, and that helped me. So that's where I've been a complete kind of absolute convert, that the way to kind of heal the root issues, to really get to the root of alcohol, of any addiction, of any mental health disorder or physical, is go to the energetic side of it first. What is going on energetically? So that's how I then started to help other people, looking at their energy work, looking at how I could help them that way as well. And coming out more and more with that. At first, I was a little bit kind of reticent to kind of come out with that because, again, I thought people were going, "Oh, it's woo woo," but conventionally coaching people in recovery, that's what I did. But then I kind of added bit by bit the energy work, and now I've come out and rebranded, and for me, it is all about the energy. And yeah, and ancestral healing for me was a big one. Getting reconnection with my roots, which it was a really weird turn of events because my family got like dozens of pictures in the living room, and I kind of saw this particular picture. It was an old sepia coloured picture of a man, Nigerian man, probably in the early 1900s, sat in his gown, his outfit with a staff, very chiselled. And I just asked my dad, "Who is this man?" He said, "It's your great grandfather." And I thought, okay, so tell me more about him. And amazing story that he was enslaved. He was captured in Nigeria. He was sent to America, but then he made his way back. And he made his way back through, I think it was the UK, through Liberia, through Sierra Leone. He traded cattle along the way and finally remembered his name, came back to his hometown of Abeokuta and settled and had, you know, my grandmother, and, my grandmother had my father. And I was just in awe. Just this man went through so much trauma, so much trauma, but he had so much determination. His North Star was getting back to Abeokuta in Nigeria. He remembered his name
Yeah.
and he came full circle. And that made me kind of go, I remember who I am now. It was weird.
Yeah. So
And
how does ancestral healing work then?
it works in various ways. I mean, it can be as simple as the simplest thing and most gentlest thing is reconnecting with starting talking to your family if you still, your family is still around, and where are you from? Some people could be from, an Irish background or an African background. But I think what we've done is forgotten really our kind of real roots in this modern era, that we don't take the interest um, that we could do to find out, enrich our own journey for what our ancestors went through, their traditions, their most amazing stories that they can tell. And I think that's the first kind of acknowledgement that you are connected. And with ancestral healing, it's what we call epigenetics. So if there's been a trauma, for instance, like my great grandfather went through a massive trauma, that trauma is actually encoded in our DNA, and it's called an epitome. So it's tagged onto your DNA. So that can be activated anytime. So even though you didn't have the direct trauma yourself, yeah, it can be activated as a, why am I feeling like I'm feeling? Why do I feel like I'm being hunted, or I'm in a state of high alert all the time? And when I go back to that, this is when I started to put the pieces together, that this is not my story. I'm experiencing what my great grandfather experienced. So a lot of it is about acknowledging, hearing the stories, and then getting some real deep work. It could be with a trauma therapist if it is really, really unsettling. But it's just piecing together, acknowledging, making peace, forgiveness, healing around it. Could do some meditation, hypnosis around it, FLP, past life regression, ancestral healing, past life regression. So there's various ways. It's different for each person. So that's why I'm not being prescriptive about it, because it
Yeah.
depends. If it's very traumatic, then a person may need the trauma kind of informed specialist. Somebody could have come from a war torn ancestry. There again, it could be trauma through sexual trauma in the past. The mom, or before that, or there was sexual violence in the family line. So it's breaking that gently, but everybody's different, and making peace and celebrating all the good things that have come from your ancestry, the strength, the resilience. From my past, it's, there's a lot of, fun and humor and tradition, all of that. And that's what I gained, when I learnt about my own, ancestry. But you could come from a Celtic past, you could be Scottish or Irish. There's a potato famine. People may have an experience of, it could be around food issues that they have today because of a famine and shortage. So for me, all of this really comes into it. Um, and so intergenerational and transgenerational trauma, I think, does play an important part in somebody's addiction pattern.
Oh, that's really interesting. So, did you find the work that you did with the shaman then and the energy healing? Did that obviously made you feel a lot better? But did that help you stop drinking when you came out the seventh time from rehab? So you
Yeah,
came out after 7 goes at rehab, and
yeah.
I'm guessing at that point you weren't drinking.
No, I wasn't drinking at all,
No.
but I was scared that I was gonna, because
Yeah.
after 7 times, I just
Yeah.
thought, I was scared. I was
Yeah.
really scared.
Relapse was your normal sort of like.
Relapse was my normal thing.
Yeah.
I felt that I had to do something. That's when I left. The day I left, I just knew. They suggested I go on to antidepressants, and I knew that I didn't want to go on antidepressants because I'm going to stay on it, basically,
Yeah.
because that's me. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that. And so it was pure serendipity that this friend of mine suggested, seeing this woman. And I never drank since. So that's been 16, going on to 17 years.
So it
And,
worked.
yeah. So I know this is what worked for me,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
unequivocally.
Yeah.
That was what worked for me, and I knew it was an energetic disruption. I knew deep down there was something, there was a knowing in me, something that was, it was going to be okay. And where did that come from? Where did that feeling come from? Because I'd never felt like that before. Um, and then I was kind of pushed to I don't know, I was just pushed to kind of find out more and help myself with it first with Reiki, you know, going through the Reiki course and doing self healing and using crystals and having fun.
Yeah.
With it as well is, getting curious and having fun and starting to live life again, in a very wholesome way. And I always say if recovery is not fun, I think I would have started again as well. But it's been fun filled, it's been exciting, finding who I truly am, reconnecting with my roots, my ancestry, getting to reconnect with parts of me that, I hadn't connected with for forever, you know,
Yeah.
those parts of me, retrieving those parts of me that were either latent or lost or, and having me back again as a whole.
Yeah.
And that took a little bit of time, but it's been a lovely journey. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm standing strong now in the kind of energetic space. I believe other recoveries are very important, like for instance AA and other peer support groups and therapies are very important. But for somebody like me who has struggled a lot with the conventional therapies and modalities, this is something to look at if all else has been challenging or has failed.
Yeah. So, um, how did you transition from being a dentist to working in the energy field?
Very slow. It's not been kind of all of a sudden I was going to do that. It's just I've been very lucky that I could reduce my time because I'm self-employed. So it's bit by bit and working with people in my profession who kind of knew about me, working with doctors and dentists who had issues. And then again, my big thing is also around food. Food was a big issue for me. It wasn't alcohol, it was food. So there was food addiction, bulimia, in my story as well. So food was another thing that I helped people with food addiction, helping people overcome um, kind of that mental obsession around food. And so,
Well,
hi,
hello. I don't know what happened there.
I don't know. You just fell out. I fell out.
You fell out for me. I probably fell out for you, but we're back now.
Yeah.
Um, I tell you what, it fell out for me about the time where I asked you about the transitioning between dentistry and things. So I'll just go back. I'll ask that again, and then we can just talk
Right.
about this a little bit. Um, so how did you transition from being a dentist then to working in the energy field?
Just very slowly. It wasn't something I kind of set out to do that I want to do this full time. It was just a slow, let me work with it, let me play with it, let me see what works for other people. And I worked with kind of other people in my profession, worked on them, doctors, dentists, vets, and kind of slowly kind of transitioned. And it's taken quite a long time because it for me, I didn't know what good looked like. But yes, slowly. So I still work a couple of days as a locum, helping the NHS out when I can. But yeah, so I'm kind of virtually full time now. But it's taken time, and it's taken love, and I've been not in any rush
Yeah.
to completely go into it. I love them both.
Yeah. And what do your family think about this transition that you've made? Because obviously, education from your background is really important. They must be really, really proud of you as a dentist, and this is quite different. So, how do
Yeah.
they feel about it?
Um, well, I've got to a certain age now, so they trust me.
Yeah,
They've seen how I've been 16 years sober. They've got their daughter back who's sane, who's sober, and is doing well. My
yeah,
father still kind of goes, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You know, for me, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Dad, I'm enjoying it." And I think he knows that because I'm happy. He goes, "Okay."
yeah, yeah,
Because for them, it's just not tangible.
no,
You know,
yeah,
how are you going to make a living? I am, don't worry.
yeah, yeah. Brilliant. So,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they've always been supportive then of what you've done,
they've
and
been supportive because they've seen me well. They saw me when I was, you know, 5 stone and ill and just literally going to just drop dead, basically, and
yeah,
seizures. So to see that, and then to see someone who's thriving, has raised two beautiful boys really well. Um, they can't ask for more. They know I'm happy, and they know
yeah,
that this is what made me well. So I just want to pass this on and help other people.
yeah. So, tell us how you work with other people now.
I've just actually kind of, as I said to you, kind of re thought about how I want to work, and I'm kind of moving out of the coaching space and more being a guide because it is bespoke, and it's something that I want to see the people. I don't just want to do things online. So I've had this big shift from working online to actually physically, getting my hands on people. So I kind of do VIP days. We're looking at setting up 3-day retreats. I'm also working with training with bioresonance as well, which is going to be an absolute game changer. Where I'll work with someone between 3 and 5 days with that, and with, as I said, whatever they need, what kind of energetic therapies they need, then what we'll bespoke it. So for me, it's all about that. So it will be kind of on an individual basis and going to see the person, maybe in their home or a clinic, and doing that way. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think I've just shifted now from being online to physically seeing people.
yeah.
I
So,
think
did
that's
you
just
mainly
very
start
important.
online?
Pardon?
Did you mainly start online then?
I mainly started online, but it didn't. For me, I just felt I'm better serving my clients if I see them physically, and so now I'm looking at doing like workshops and group events, that kind of thing. Because I also do things like future life progression. So for me, it's more important that I'm physically in the space with my clients or participants. And then I actually want to I want to push this out into kind of the prison system. So myself and a very, very notable colleague, we're thinking of actually doing some work and workshops within the prison system where addiction is just rife, and a lot of have landed in there through some kind of drug addiction,
Yeah,
substance misuse. So I kind of want to go that way as well.
yeah,
But
yeah,
there's a lot I'm working through at the moment, and again, this year's just been a big shift. And last year, I just came to it just didn't feel right being online, and I just had to stop. I think something just went stop, and I did, and I thought, what do I really? How do I want to really get this out? And I kind of really
yeah,
listened to me, and I thought, this is not how I want to do it. This is how I want to do it, and that's why it's taken me time to
yeah.
see what good looks like.
Yeah,
And
well, I
it's
think
been good.
online was brilliant, wasn't it, during the COVID years? But I think now we've got to the point where actually people really missed that in person and
I
seeing
missed
people in
it.
the flesh. And, I
Yeah,
now just want to ideally go to events and see people and actually have proper face to face conversations
Me
online's
too.
fantastic for certain situations, but I think we all gain a lot more from being in person. Now,
Absolutely.
you mentioned future life progression. Can you tell us a bit about what that is?
That's it's really pioneering. The lady that kind of worked with this is who pioneered this is called Anne Jersh, and that's who I trained with. And it's more than visualization. It's hidden therapy. It's light trance, putting somebody into a kind of a light trance and taking them into their future. And it could be their future in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. We could look at different timelines and see what their future self. And it's not me being the oracle. They're their own oracle. They go in, they meet their future self, and bring the messages back from future self to current to see what they can use today to help them move forward. So it kind of makes things smoother. The decisions that they make, the messages that they get, help them in the here and now, to kind of move forward. And it's about reconnecting, regularly with that future self afterwards to see what else comes through. And it's actually really, really powerful. I actually found my house that way.
How did you find your house that way?
Well, I was moving back to Leeds because I wanted to sort of be closer to my parents. And I really was in a rush. It was Christmas 2022, and I think it was probably September, October, and I knew I was on a deadline. I couldn't find anything. So I did a future life progression with one of my colleagues, and I said, I need to find somewhere, even just rented, just quickly. I need to be there before Christmas so I could get the boys up for Christmas and my parents. And they took me through, through FLP, and I saw, it was interesting, and I saw my old park, uh, Roundhay Park, and I thought, well, that's interesting. And I saw there used to be an old pub called the Stables, and it's called Roundhay Fox now. And I saw the stables there. I thought, what am I doing there? And during the light trance, I was walking through the park and walked right through to the bottom, and I saw this white cottage, and went, okay, it's a white cottage. I went into the cottage. I could see just clearly the bedrooms, the colour of the walls, the back porch, everything, the garden, clear as anything. Came out of it, finished with a session, and I immediately just Googled properties Roundhay Park. It was there for
Was it
rent.
exactly as you described it?
Exactly as he described it from the outside. I rang up the estate agents the next day. It was a Sunday, and I said, I need to see this property. I was going back to London that afternoon, and she said, well, you haven't done your references or anything else. I said, listen, if there's a cancellation, I really have to see this property because I am going back to London at 2:30. She rang me back probably about an hour later, and she said, we've got a cancellation. If you want to see, you can fill your details in later. I said, okay, let me go and see it. It was exactly that. Exactly. I thought, oh my God, I walked in, there it was. There was the porch, there was the ivy, there was the garden. Beautiful, beautiful location. Never actually realised that those houses existed because it's like a little hamlet tucked away. And I said to her, I'm getting it. That's it. Thanks. I'll give you the reference. We'll sort the references out later. That was the power of it. And yeah, I've had a
Yeah,
couple of other incidents like that. And I've worked with my clients, and it's been amazing what pops up. And it's like, oh my God, 4 months later, this happened. And that's what we saw. So yeah, it's very powerful. Very
yeah.
powerful.
So it sounds like it's a little bit similar to sort of manifestation as well, that, the power of the mind. And do you think
Yeah,
there's
the power of the
similarities?
mind. I just think we run on timelines as well. There's no past, present, and future. It's all the same. The past is here, the future's here, the present's here. It's all here.
Yeah,
But we can access different timelines from the here and the now.
yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Amazing. And also, I know that you've had a book out called Invitation. Tell us all
yeah,
about your book.
that's basically all about kind of the energy work that I kind of found along the way, the journey. Meeting Anna, the shaman, from there to ancestral healing, Reiki, crystal. So it's giving someone a snippet of all the modalities that they could dip into. So I know for some people who've read it, they found it very helpful. Say they maybe have taken up Reiki, because for Reiki, you can do some self Reiki on yourself. And I think that's really important. With crystals, again, you can work with them on yourself. So you're not necessarily going out there into the world helping others initially, but you can really, really help yourself with some really fun, energetic stuff. And just little things like mirror work, and self forgiveness, and going with the flow, being in flow state, all the things that kind of put you into a state of, yeah, everything's going to be fine. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
how would you work with crystals yourself then?
I work
How
with
does that work?
crystals. I don't use them so much every single day, but for instance, when I work, I do meditation. I may pick a crystal. Um, at the moment, it's apophyllite. I don't know why it's apophyllite, but it just works for me really well. And I just hold it and meditate with it. Or if I'm just feeling like I need a little bit more concentration or focus, I might use, like, for instance, fluorite and stick one down my bra. Or if I need a bit more creativity, I might use carnelian. And then kind of I set up sort of crystal grids as well. And crystal grids are sacred geometric patterns, or for me it's on a brass plate, a copper plate, and I place the crystals of my choosing for wealth, abundance, love, joy, whatever. So I can set up a crystal grid, and it's usually in my bedroom, so I can get the energies while I'm sleeping, while I'm there. So there's lots of fun ways to work with crystals. And again, you know, recovery is supposed to be fun, and these are little things that kind of made it, fun for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And what would be your top three choices of crystals to help people with
Amethyst was my
recovery?
first one. Amethyst is my first one, and
Yeah.
amethyst was, again, it's Latin for not drunk. But I actually love amethyst. I love the color, and it gave me a lot of focus. Gave me a lot of peace. I could make decisions from a place of peace. I could go into the world and not feel like I'm on a state of high alert. So amethyst was my first one. I absolutely love citrine, which is like a golden yellow, and that's for joy and abundance and confidence. It's called the merchant stone. Um, I love it because, again, it was giving me a little bit more self confidence, feelings of self worth. So I worked with citrine quite a lot. And the other one I'd say it's red jasper. And for me, that's for kind of determination, feeling rooted, feeling safe, safe in the world, safe in myself, trusting in myself. And that's the other thing that I've really come to kind of believe that energy work has helped with is reconnecting with self, trusting myself more. It's a trust in
Yeah.
yourself recovery, that I know the answers. And so for me, I know what I need now to stay well. um, Decisions in life, I don't need to be looking out all the time, for answers. It's all here. And that's the beauty of, energetic work and recovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you get
Well,
to know
that,
yourself on a deeper level.
yeah. And I can see and hear that you've really found joy in sobriety as well. That, your life sounds a lot
Yeah.
better now than it did when you were
Oh,
going through those 7 years of
7 years of,
rehab.
yeah,
And yeah,
absolute hell. But if I hadn't have gone through them, I don't think I would have had so much joy in my life as I do now. I
yeah,
think I would have carried on doing, even if I'd kind of managed to stay sober. I think I would have struggled. I would have made the decisions, kind of life change decisions, that I would have now. I would have really stayed doing what I'm doing, and being what I'm being. And I think there's been a whole mindset shift with it.
yeah, yeah. That's amazing. Um, so, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you and to work with you if they're looking for a similar sort of journey?
It's going to be soon. You can check me out on LinkedIn. I can send you the details, Olubunmi / LinkedIn, whatever. But it's drolubunmi.com. That's my
Excellent.
new domain, but I can give you those details and send it through.
Yeah,
But yeah,
brilliant. And we'll put
anybody
those in
who's
the show
interested
notes.
in supporting energy and having a coherent energy through their recovery, check me out.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
It's
you,
been a
Harry.
real joy to speak to you.
And you
And
too.
yeah, thank you. And thank you to everybody that's been listening. This has been Stories from My Drinking Days with me, Harry Fell, and with Dr. Olubunmi. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.